Through the Bible, there are real events that happen to real people in their time, and yet they also picture events and people that are yet future who will have a similar but greater fulfillment. Example, we know that Enoch, who lived before the flood in a very vile, ungodly society, pictures a type of people that will be taken up in the rapture, an event yet future for the church. So in this study we will look at some of these people and events and see the outcome of their experiences and learn what we do to receive God's blessings or to avoid His judgments on people that did not obey Him. So let's start with that, the listening, the training of the will. So God planted a garden for man. And the devil did not plant the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and God planted the tree of life. God planted both of them. Why? Why would God put in the garden that He created for man a tree that could corrupt man? Why? Testing of your will. Your will. I make my choice for God. And everybody in here has a will. A will. And you're going to learn to discipline that will, or you're going to let the devil run it for you, and you're going to miss out with God. So they lived with God before the fall, Adam and Eve, and then they had children. Bible only lists two, Cain and Abel, chapter 4. So the first two records of the birth of their children that were born after the fall was Cain and Abel. So they knew it was right by God's communication. God's a liberal soul. Be like God. Christians, when it comes to God, don't pinch pennies. I've got all this time, but God, I only have a little bit of time for you. You can never learn to outgive God. God will always give you more than you can ever give to Him. And understand this, my giving. We're going to learn that on these boys. God doesn't need it. He can make money if He wants to. He doesn't have to have my money. It's not what God has to have from you. It's what you have to have from God. And both of these boys knew that. And Abel, this is going to God. So he looked through his flock and found the best 1-year-old he had to offer it to God because it's God. That was his attitude of heart toward God. God is liberal. I want you to be like me. I want you to be like me. I want you to bear my nature, and I am liberal toward you. Understand this in all of your giving. God doesn't need your money. God doesn't need a penny from you or me. God needs a heart attitude from us, that it's like God to be liberal in our giving. He doesn't have to have it. I can create. But you need to learn it. I'm always asking money. Money. Flow with God. Abel, it goes to God, and I want to give God my best because God gives me His best. God gave you Jesus. God became one of us so He could die for us. You can't outgive that. Cain, like some of us, God doesn't need my money. I don't mind if y'all do it. Go ahead and renovate if you want to, but I'm not interested. And so Cain went out in his field and brought an offering. But I'm required to give an offering, so I'll give the least I can. Aren't you glad there's no one like that in Lighthouse? The least I can. And God did not look, don't misunderstand that, God did not look that much about the size of His offering. And it wasn't in that it was a blood offering from Abel and not. No, that had nothing to do with it. These were bringing each what they worked for. But it was Cain's attitude toward God. You require an offering, so I'll give the least I can get by with. And God saw his heart. Cain, why is your countenance fallen? What's wrong? Because God, you liked Abel's offering better than mine. Well, Abel gave better than you did. It wasn't the offering, it was the heart. And Cain, if you will do right, I will honor yours as well. It's not the amount of the offering. It has nothing to do with it. It's the attitude of the heart. I want a heart that's like mine. It's a liberal soul shall be made fat. And he says, Cain, you correct your attitude toward this, or there is, the actual wording is, there's a wild beast lying at your door. And you are going to master him, or he is going to master you. Let me repeat that. Get it? When we have a wrong attitude toward God, that has to be corrected. God is perfect, and he's not going to correct anything to please us. We've got to become like him. He doesn't become like, we have to become like him. And you change your attitude. I'm not looking altogether at your offering. I'm looking at the heart that gave that offering. And you are going to change, you're going to deal with your attitude. Or there is like a wild beast crouched at your door. And you are going to master him, or he is going to master you. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in this building this morning are faced with issues of life just like that. When there's an appeal made to you and you know it's wrong. I don't feel right by doing that way, but my attitude is wrong. There's some attitudes that Christian attitudes just get stinky. You understand that? If your attitude is wrong, you're wrong with God to start with, or you wouldn't have that attitude. You do something to change your attitude. There's a wild beast just outside your door. Cain, this is the turning point in your life. You are going to learn to master him and get your attitude straightened out, or it's downhill the rest of the way. Now you're going to, and when anybody in this building, or it comes up a little later, I'm hurt and my feelings are hurt bad, and I'm going to, and change your attitude. They didn't treat Jesus right, but he had the right attitude. It will master you, or you will master it. So there becomes a turning point and we start downhill, not all the way to begin with, but it's beginning a downhill slide that it will never end till hell itself. And those two boys made choices that day. That day. I'm not going to change my attitude. I still feel like I did about God, and He shouldn't have done me that way, and He should have been thankful for what I did do. God doesn't care about your money. He cares about your heart. Your heart. Your heart. Your heart. And you keep that pure and right with God, and He will work you through any situations. But learn this lessons from two young men, Abel and Cain. And there their paths divided, and it kept going from bad to worse for Cain the rest of his life. And he is not just talking about Cain and Abel. That was a real living experience with those two boys. But there are people living in Hong Kong that have the same relationship today. You get a sour attitude and it's going to eat you up. You get a Christian attitude and you can take it without getting hurt. And walking with God is more important than anything else in all of your life. So if you're faced with something you got hurt over, or you do in the future, it's not worth it. I don't care what it was. I don't care who did it to you. I don't care how wrong they were. That's not it. God can sweeten any situation for your life. If you will work with God, God will bring you through the darkest night. And you'll come out on the other side walking with God. And if you don't deal with those things, it will destroy you. So we're learning. Cain and Abel, everybody in this building is faced with choices just like Cain and just like Abel today. There are two other lessons. Let's quickly look at two men further down the road. Just before the flood, keep in mind when these two streams began, a godly line and an ungodly line, Cain and Abel, and it broadens. So we have two streams going down of humanity. By the time it comes to the flood, the ungodly line has so increased till Noah and his family were the only godly people on the face of the earth. Now learn these patterns. My brother, my sister, we have an awful lot of religion in this world that has nothing to do with God. It is church, but it's not God. When you deal with God, God deals with the Spirit in restoring likeness. And whatever comes our way, we learn to deal with it in God. I am not able, but God is able, and He'll get in your heart and make it turn out right if you'll walk with God. But the rest of the world did not. They kept getting worse and worse and worse till it came to the time of Noah's time, and God says, I am so sorry I ever made man. I will destroy the whole human race except Noah and his family. So in the mercy of God, He destroyed all the ungodly For one reason, I have only one godly family left on the face of the earth, and if that is contaminated, I have nothing to build with. I will not use the sinner to build my church. But there was another man that lived just before that time. What was his name? Enoch. Enoch. Oh, we're dealing with twos here. Cain and Abel, all right. Enoch and Noah. Enoch lived just before the flood. But for hundreds of years, Enoch walked close to God, and he never allowed the world about him to influence his walk with God. You got that one? One man walked close enough with God that Enoch was never influenced by the world. And ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the very close of the church age, in your lifetime. Now let me tell you how to make it to heaven. You walk close enough to God that you'll never be influenced by the world. No matter how bad that world gets, you cannot overcome all the influence of the world if you're surrounded by it and trying to go along with it. No. Enoch walked hand in hand with God systematically for hundreds of years. And God, in His own relationship with you, will keep you walking and keep you clean and keep you pure, and your heart is ready to meet God. So what is Enoch a type of? These are pictures. What is Enoch a type of? He walked with God. And what? God took him. What is the rapture? If you're walking with God, there's going to be a rapture very soon, and God will take those that are ready, and those that are not is not going. I don't care how many churches you belong to. He walked with God. It's not all of my profession. It's not all how show you how Christian I am and how faithful I am. No, it's your walk with God that gives you the power to live it for God. He walked close to God, and the world never had any, in a very ungodly age, this is an ungodly age, and the world never influenced Enoch because he was so close to God. God took him. And he pictures something, the event that's just before this church today. Enoch and Noah. So there is going to be a rapture, whether we believe it or not. I was teaching a group of Chinese in Montgomery, Alabama, near our home. Most of them from mainland China and some of them from Taiwan. They wanted, since we understood Chinese, come and teach us Bible study. And there's one of the professors that was interpreting for me. And I said, I mentioned the rapture. And in the middle of his interpretation, what? What? You mean? He never heard of it. A professor, Christian professor. And he wasn't arguing with me. It was just such a surprise. What? That was not interpreting to me. He was just, yeah, there's going to be a rapture. The Bible is very clear about it. Those that like, and Enoch gives you a picture. And if you want to go up, you walk close to God consistently, not up and down. It's in and out. You walk close to God, and God will take you.